Up to 30% of people have anxiety around flying, with up to 10% of people experiencing full-on panic attacks. It's not hard to understand why, even though plane crashes are rare when they do happen. There's not a whole lot of surviving going on. Not to mention you're putting your life entirely in the hands of total strangers. Granted, they're total strangers that have spent thousands of hours doing this, but still. I mean, it's far more dangerous to drive, but at least when you're driving, you feel like you're in some kind of control of the situation. Not to mention this whole idea that a giant metal tube is just defying the laws of gravity, it just kind of goes against everything that we, think is right. Plus, you never hear anything good about flying. If something is on the news about flying, it's something terrible happened. So I used to have a fear of being in a plane crash just like everybody else, but then I worked at an airport restaurant. When I was in college, I worked at one of those restaurants that you see in the terminals that was right by a gate, and I was able to see day in and day out just how many planes come in. I mean, the gate that I worked at had 5 or 6 flights out of it every single day, and that was one gate out of like 32 in that terminal, which was 1 out of 4 in that one airport, which is 1 out of thousands around the world. I mean, you can look at air travel and the numbers and statistics, that's one thing, but it's a different thing to actually see it. So yeah, that many planes flying 24 hours a day, every single day of the year, and if anything goes wrong on any of them, it makes national news. So we hear about the bad stuff, but we don't see this giant, incredibly amazing machine of transportation that we've built. So that experience did completely change my perception around flying. But as I'm about to explain in this video, even if the worst does happen, you do still have a chance of surviving it. Now before I get started in this video, I want to make something perfectly clear. Your chances of surviving if you are in a plane crash, unfortunately, are incredibly small. I don't want to give you any kind of false sense of hope should the worst thing happen. This is it! I'm gonna die! Wait, I saw that Joe Scott video where he talked about people surviving plane crashes. Cool, I'll be fine. No, if you fall from 30,000 feet, you are definitely not gonna be fine. Chances are, you dead. But there have been people that have fallen from incredible heights and lived to tell the tale. And luckily we can learn from their stories and maybe increase our chances from 0.001% to 0.002%. I mean, that's double, my friend. So the first crazy story is a face that we've all seen somewhere before, either on TV or in a dank meme: Bear Grylls. Bear Grylls was the host of Man vs. Wild, but before he became a television personality, he actually served in the British Armed Forces. As a member of the SAS Territorial Army, Bear was participating in a training exercise over Zambia when his parachute failed to inflate and he came crashing to the ground 16,000 feet. And he actually landed on his parachute pack, which broke his back, but luckily didn't sever his spinal cord. At which point he stood up, looked around, assessed the situation, and realized his only course of action was to drink his own piss. Actually, it took a whole year of 10-hour-a-day therapy sessions to get him back in fighting shape, and good thing it did. The man's a damn treasure. Keeping with the military theme, a fairly famous case is that of Alan McGee in World War II. Alan McGee was an American airman and a ball turret gunner in a B-17, which I'm sorry has to be one of the most nightmarish jobs anybody's ever had. Made even more nightmarish when he was shot out of his plane over Saint Nazaire, France. He fell more than 22,000 feet and crashed through the glass ceiling of a train station. And this slowed his fall just enough that when he landed on the train platform, he only sustained minor injuries. And he was immediately captured by the Germans, who were so impressed that he actually survived this that they actually gave him a certificate that he could take home to prove to everybody that what happened to him really happened. See, the Nazis weren't all bad. They gave certificates. So that's a thing. Sticking with the German theme, let's talk about Julian Kapke. The segues in this video. I'm on fire, man. Julianne was a German 17-year-old who was flying through Peru with her mother from Lima to Pucallpa. Pucallpa? Pucallpa. Anyway, her plane went down in a thunderstorm. On Christmas Eve, no less. Ugh. The crash killed everyone on board tragically, including her mother, but Julianne somehow survived, landing in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, still strapped to her seat, surrounded by Christmas presents. Normally being surrounded by Christmas presents is a good thing. She had a broken collarbone and multiple open wounds, but she was alive. And this is actually where her story gets really amazing. So her father was a biologist, and he taught her that if she was ever lost, to find water and follow it, because, little streams become big streams, become rivers, and where there are rivers, there are usually people. So she found a small stream and followed it. for 10 days. She encountered crocodiles, she kept stingrays at bay by using a sharpened stick, she had maggots infesting her wounds, but she kept pushing on until she eventually found a canoe on the side of the river and found some lumberjacks that were able to take her away to safety. There's actually a documentary made about her by Werner Herzog. I'll link to it down in the description. Werner Herzog doing a movie about the girl in the rainforest. And you can't do a list of plane crash survivors without talking about Vesna Vulović. Vesna Vulović was a Serbian flight attendant on JAV Flight 376 on January 26, 1972, when a bomb went off over Czechoslovakia, killing everyone on board. Everyone except Vesna. The story is that she was wedged between the serving cart and a seat, so when the plane blew up, everybody else got thrown out of the airplane, whereas she got stuck there in the tail section, which landed on a very wooded mountain that happened to be covered with snow. And the last bit of luck was that Vesna happened to be found by a farmer in the area that happened to be a medic in World War II, so he was able to treat her until the emergency personnel arrived. So lucky, yes, but still pretty messed up. She suffered a fractured skull, broke both of her legs, her pelvis, several ribs, and 3 vertebrae in the back, one of which was completely shattered. She was in a coma for several days after the accident, and when she awoke, she had absolutely no memory that it happened. The last thing she remembered was helping people onto the plane, and it was 2 weeks before people were able to actually tell her what happened. And she was also paralyzed from the waist down, but amazingly, she did eventually make a complete recovery and even went back to being a flight attendant. Vesna became something of a national hero, and she was actually recognized in 1985 by the Guinness World Records for surviving the highest fall without a parachute at 33,000 feet. So people have survived these kinds of things. According to the people who study it, 43 people have survived drops of over 10,000 feet. So let's say you're cruising along at 33,000 feet and the worst thing happens and you want to be number 44. What can you do to survive? Well, here's what they say to do. First thing is either be a child or a flight attendant. I know both of those are out of your control, but those two are more overrepresented in the number of survivors of these things. Children sit lower in the seat, which means that their heads are more protected from flying debris. Also, they weigh less, so they hit the ground with a little bit less force, and when they do hit the ground, their bones are more supple, they've got more body fat, and that protects their internal organs. Flight attendants and crew, when they're not slinging pretzels, are usually hanging out in either the front or the back of the plane. These are two parts of the plane that are least likely to be torn apart and least likely to suck you out of it, especially the tail end. Which probably helps answer a common question that gets asked, which is it better to be inside the plane or free falling outside of the plane? And if you're wondering that yourself, just know that of the 43 people that have survived, 31 of them were inside the plane. So yeah, it's better in there. Not only does the body of the plane take up at least a little bit of the impact, there's a little bit of a crumple zone there, but it's also got a wider surface area, which means it catches more air, gets more air resistance, and actually slows down a little bit on the way down. All right, so you're at cruising altitude and the plane breaks apart in the air. The first thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna pass out. The atmosphere at 30,000 feet is very thin, very cold, and very without oxygen. For example, the area of Mount Everest above 26,000 feet is called the death zone because you need an oxygen tank above that point. So when the plane breaks up, you're gonna feel a blast of incredibly cold air and then lights out. By the time you come to, you'll be at around 22,000 feet. You still got about 2 more minutes before you hit the ground. And here's where you've got to make a couple of decisions while ignoring the giant turd that's formed in your pants. So if you're actually in a solid piece of the plane that's managed to stay together, the best thing you can do is just tighten your seatbelt, hold on, and wish for the best. That really is your best option. But if you've been thrown from the plane, the first thing you want to do is turn yourself into a flying squirrel. Spread your arms and legs out as far as possible like a skydiver, make your surface area as big as possible to catch as much air as you can, and slow down. Arch your back, keep your head up, and aim yourself. Remember, time is on your side. Some people would actually argue that falling out of a plane is better than falling off of a really tall building because you've actually got a little bit of time to slow your fall, time to find a good spot to land. So what makes a good landing spot? The simple answer is anything that can cushion your fall, even a little bit. A grassy area, bushes are good, swampy areas are really great. Trees are better than rocks, although trees can stick you a little bit. There are even stories of people surviving by bouncing off of electrical wires. Now, contrary to popular belief, water is actually a terrible option. Water doesn't compress, so at terminal velocity, hitting water isn't that much different than hitting concrete. The only difference is, once you shatter all your bones on concrete, it doesn't then swallow you up. But if you do have to hit water because the world is mostly water, you want to go in feet first like a pencil, as sharp as you possibly can, and make sure and tighten your butt cheeks or else you're gonna get the worst enema of all time. All right, so it's been a couple minutes after you've woken up, you're getting pretty close to the ground, you've got a good landing spot, you're approaching it. How exactly do you hit the ground? There's not really any consensus on this, and not a lot of people experimenting on themselves to find out, but in general, most deaths from falls occur because of head trauma. So generally you want to land and roll on your feet kind of like a skydiver and let your body take the blow. The old hit and roll maneuver. It's a classic. No matter how you land, chances are you're going to lose consciousness again, because that's what the brain does when every inch of your body is screaming at it in absolute pain. When you come to, if you're lucky, you fell near a populated area where people can quickly get to you, and if not, let's hope you got some survival skills, because it might be time to drink your own piss. But really, the chances of you ever needing to know this, pretty slim. Air travel is by far the safest mode of travel in the world, and it keeps getting safer every year. The whole keeping planes up in the air and landing safely is something that, thankfully, we've kind of got down at this point. So with a little bit of luck, you'll never fall out of an airplane. But if you do, with a lot of luck, you might survive it. All right, I hope that was fun and a little bit educational for you. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Real quick, I want to shout out some Patreon supporters. I don't usually do this on Thursdays, but I'm really behind. I had a whole lot of people sign up, and I've got to catch up on them. So let me shout out some names real quick. We got Sue Ann Soap, Nicholas Vickers, Scott Norman, Jeff Smith, Tony Boveris, or Beauvoir, Martin Hardoy, Janice Schweritz, Blake Johnson, Ryan Garnham, William DeVore, Terry A. Lamb, Becca, Barb, Melcher, Not Sun, and a dash. Somebody just used a dash. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for signing up. If you'd like to join them, find out all about the cool stuff we got going on at Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/answerswithjoe. Please do like and share this video if you liked it. And if this is your first time here, maybe check out this video or any of the others that Google thinks you might like. And if you do like it, please do subscribe, hit the little bell notification. You'll be the first to know whenever I put out videos every Monday and every Thursday. And with that, I'm gonna say goodbye. You guys go out now, have an eye-opening week, and I'll see you on Monday. Love you guys. Take care.